They come in letters. They come in emails. I've had my children's life threatened. There is a hatred of Black people. There is a complete disrespect for women. There is no excuse for an officer that abuses their power and does something to hurt the Black community.
What is going on, everyone? So we see this situation with Fani Willis. She is in full panic mode right now. Donald Trump just hit her with a $17 million legal bill that came from her failed prosecution, and now she's calling this ridiculous, preposterous sum of money.
Well, there's a new national poster child for playing stupid games and winning stupid prizes. That is Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis. If you didn't see the news, she does not want to pay attorney fees to President Trump and because of her failed prosecution, and she's saying that it will eat up her entire budget.
Fulton County DA Fani Willis is asking a judge to throw out Donald Trump and the other election interference defendants' request for an estimated $17 million in legal fees.
In her new filing, Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis calls the estimated $17 million legal bill for Donald Trump and the other election interference defendants, quote, a suitably preposterous sum.
Crazy how that goes. The idea of calling something preposterous, you know what's preposterous? Spending taxpayer money to hire your boyfriend as a special prosecutor, getting caught, having the case dismissed, and then acting shocked when the bill comes due. We talked about this before and we realized that she's in a bad spot. She's trying not to pay the money. But here's what makes this story even more ridiculous. I just saw this recent interview on YouTube where Fani Willis sat down with Pastor Jamal Bryant. And if you know anything about him, you know he has a lot of issues himself, but these two start talking about integrity, accountability, and lessons her Black Panther father taught her about doing the right thing. And my people who watch this channel, I have to tell you that the hypocrisy was staggering. So stick around because I'm about to show you exactly who Fani Willis really is when you compare to what she says to what she does. Let's get into it. So before we break a lot of this stuff down, I need you to understand something. In this interview, Fani Willis presents herself as the beacon of justice, talking about holding corrupt officials accountable, talking about dignity, talking about her father teaching her right from wrong. She talks about prosecuting police who abuse their power. She talks about everyone deserving dignity. She talks about judging people by their actions, not by their words. But when you actually look at her track record, the Nathan Wade relationship, the taxpayer funds, and the failed Trump prosecution, the Senate, it's like watching someone give a TED Talk on honesty while actively running a con. So I'm going to show you a few sound bites from this interview that is going to blow your mind when you see them in context. But first, let's talk about what she actually done. In early 2023, Fani Willis brings charges against Donald Trump in Georgia related to the 2020 election. Multiple legal experts, including other Georgia prosecutors, immediately called this case problematic. The legal theory was novel, the evidence is shaky, and the whole thing just smelled really political. At the same time she's building this case, she's in a romantic relationship with Nathan Wade, the guy that she hired as a special prosecutor, and she's paying him with taxpayer money, hundreds of thousands of dollars. Obviously, in 2024, the relationship gets exposed. The whole case starts falling apart. Nathan Wade has to step down. The Senate opens an investigation into whether she misused public funds. And then 2024 Fani Willis testifies before the Georgia Senate committee. And according to experts, it was contentious and leaves lawmakers with more questions than answers. Obviously, she wasn't being straight with them. And then obviously, present day, the Trump case gets dismissed, never made it to a jury. And just like legal experts had predicted, and now Trump is seeking $17 million in legal fees. And what is Fani Willis saying? Well, she's saying that paying the bill would eat up her entire budget. You brought a really bad, terrible, corrupt prosecution using taxpayer money to pay your boyfriend. You lost. Now you gotta pay. That's called consequences. She's down bad right now, but there's always someone there willing to give her a softball interview while she can sit there and totally avoid accountability. Because in this interview, things just get really, really ridiculous. Let's talk about what she says about holding powerful people accountable.
There is no excuse for an officer that abuses their power and does something to hurt the Black community. It is why your prosecutor is so important, because I prosecute police that do that.
Wow.
But what I also know is most police officers are really trying to do their job.
So she says that she prosecutes police who abuse their power. Sounds great. But what happens when you are being accused of abusing your powers as a prosecutor, using your office to go after political opponents, hiring your boyfriend with public money, not being transparent about conflicts of interest? Where is the same energy? The Georgia Senate is investigating you for potential misconduct. Other prosecutors are calling your case corrupt, but somehow you're the victim. That's not accountability, that's just being a complete hypocrite. She spends a significant time in this interview talking about lessons from her father. Listen to this.
But I think the most important thing about my father is from a very young age, he just instilled in me that everyone has a right to dignity. And that when you judge people, you really judge them by the people that they show you that they are, not based on any race. You probably know that my father was a Black Panther.
Judge them by the people that they show you that they are. Okay, let's do that. What has Fani Willis shown us? She showed us that she'll hire her romantic partner for a high-profile case. She showed us that she'll use taxpayer funds to pay him. She showed us that she will fight transparency when questioned about it. She showed us that she'll bring up a politically motivated case that legal experts said that it was garbage from day one. So by her own standard, judge people by what they show you. She showed us that she's willing to mix personal relationships with professional duties, spend public money irresponsibly, and then cry victim when held accountable. Here's where it gets even better, and not really better in a good way.
Sometimes, us being in the schools, maybe a young lady or a young boy will reveal something very ugly that's happening to them in the home. It is our responsibility as law enforcement to make sure that people have access to us, can touch us, can see us at all stages. But I would really invite faith leaders to make sure that you invite your local police officers into your congregations to talk to your congregations about things they need to know to be safe, what's going on in their community. And I think those natural interactions will heal what is a fear. And let me say this, and I have to tell law enforcement this often, my own people, the reason they don't trust us is not just imaginary. There have been ugly things that have happened. There's a reason that they feel that way. We have to own that. Doesn't matter if it was me or my investigators. I have to own that those things happened, acknowledge that those are real fears, and let them get to know that that's not who we are as law enforcement officers.
She talks about law enforcement owning their mistakes. We have to own. It doesn't matter if it was me or my investigators, I have to own that. She's talking about police needing to own up when they mess up, acknowledge where people's fears are valid, and take responsibility. Okay, cool. But has she owned her misconduct? Has she acknowledged that taxpayers have valid concerns about how she spent their money? Has she ever really taken responsibility for this failed prosecution? No, she never did. She never ever said that this was a big mistake. This was a waste of money. All she's saying is that this legal bill is preposterous. She's claiming that she can't afford to pay. She's the victim in her narrative. That's not ownership, that's deflection. And finally, she talks about service and doing work that has meaning.
There are people in prison that need to be represented.
Yes.
We are having a vacuum of immigration lawyers. I read the saddest story about a 3-year-old representing herself in the immigration courts because they have all of these children that do not have lawyers. And so if I was making a plea to law firms right now, I would say almost all of your pro bono work should be to represent all of those people that need representation. And so it is a good way to lead your life as an attorney, and you're just needed. You are needed, and we need to have you.
She's calling for lawyers to have a service mentality, to work on the front lines, to represent people who need it. But again, we have to talk about her. What about her service? She used her office, a public office funded by the taxpayers, to pursue a political case to try to get some clout while enriching herself and her boyfriend. That's not service, that's self-service. When young lawyers look at what happened in Fulton County, what lesson are they learning? That if you have the right connections and the political motivations that you can bend the rules? That's the opposite of the service mentality that she's preaching. Consequences is not persecution. Accountability isn't oppression. Fani Willis made choices. She chose to pursue a legally questionable case. She chose to hire Nathan Wade despite their relationship. She chose to spend taxpayer money in ways that are now under investigation. She chose to fight transparency instead of being upfront. And now she's facing the consequences. A $17 million legal bill that she says that will destroy her budget. That's what happens when you play stupid games. She can invoke her father's legacy all she wants. She could talk about integrity and dignity and accountability until she's blue in the face. But at the end of the day, we don't judge people by their words. We judge them by their actions. And Fani Willis' actions have shown us exactly who she is. And that bill is due. And unlike the corrupt prosecution that she brought, this one is completely justified. So we will see what is going to happen happen and how much money that she's going to have to pay. Do I think she's going to have to pay the whole 17 million? Probably not, but there's going to be some kind of payment for what she did, and we will be following that. Let me know what you guys think about this in the comments below. Thank you for taking time to watch this video, and I'll see you guys in the next video.